Battleground, New York City, the fight for your vote. Your front row seat to the battle for New York's next mayor. It's the old guard clinging to power, chasing a candidate they never saw coming. Every night, our experts break it down.
What New Yorkers want above all else is authenticity.
We're listening to the people who matter most, you, the voters. And when the candidates sit across from us, nothing's off the table. What's your plan to make New York City feel like a safer city?
Cupp, that's your perception. Of course, there's a lot of crime.
So what's happening right now? Let's dive in. Welcome to Battleground NYC, the fight for your vote. It's Thursday, September 25th, and we are just 40 days out from this all-important New York City mayoral election. Now, today's show is a little different. In a second, I'll go through some of today's newsiest headlines from the campaign trail. And then one of our favorite guests will join us for the rest of the show to lend his analysis on all things New York City, but also the broader state of affairs. So here's your news. Let's start with one of our favorite topics, endorsement gate. In addition to the endorsement frontrunner Zohran Mamdani received from former Vice President Kamala Harris this week, he also received a phone call from her. Now, Jeffrey Lerner, who is a spokesperson for the Mamdani campaign, told Politico that Harris reaffirmed her support for his candidacy and that they discussed the campaign's affordability agenda, the importance of joy in public service, and the vice president expressed her support not only for this campaign, but for Zohran's efforts to deliver results in governance. Now, that sounds way better than this first endorsement from Harris. Take a listen.
And look, as far as I'm concerned, he's the Democratic nominee and he should be supported.
Do you endorse his candidacy?
I support the Democrat in the race. Sure.
Sure. Right. So this was way better. And in some rare news from the former Governor Andrew Cuomo campaign, he was re-endorsed. Yes, that's a thing. By the Teamsters Joint Council 16 union yesterday. They'd already backed him in the primary. The president of that union said that Cuomo has proven time and again that he's the fighter people can count on. And we know as mayor, he is ready to deliver again. Andrew Cuomo will keep our union members working, invest in New York's middle class, and we will always ensure labor has a seat at the table. The Teamsters don't back down, and neither does Andrew Cuomo. Okay, and like his opponent, Zohran Mamdani, Andrew Cuomo also did a recent interview with the New York Times. Cuomo answered 10 more questions, which included how many more police officers the city should have. And Cuomo responded 40,000. That means he would want to hire 5,000 more new police officers. Now, as you know, in this election, that's been a point of contention between the candidates. Now, Cuomo also said he would sue President Trump if he sends the National Guard to New York City. Cuomo noted that the president didn't send the National Guard to the city during the COVID pandemic, as you'll remember, due to a very in-depth conversation between the two of them. Sounds like Cuomo is hoping he can work his magic again if elected mayor. Now, when asked if he would accept an endorsement from President Trump, interestingly, his answer was no. Now, in an interview with Bloomberg this morning, Cuomo said that the race for New York City mayor was a battle for the soul of the Democratic Party. And he sees the race coming down to a one-on-one contest. Take a listen.
I don't think you're going to wind up ultimately with that larger field. I think the field is going to collapse. I think it's going to come down to me versus Mr. Mamdani. And as I said, Mamdani has 40%. He has his very radical ideas, which are exciting to one group of the population, especially young people, but are polarizing to many other people. And I think it's going to come down to a one-on-one, and then it is a totally different race.
The clock is ticking, and no signs of that collapse in sight. I don't know when Cuomo thinks this will become a one-on-one race, but we'll wait and see. Turning now to Mayor Eric Adams, will we see him on the campaign trail again? That's the question. As we discussed yesterday with Craig McCarthy of the New York Post, it's been 5 days with no sight of Mayor Eric Adams on the campaign trail. And it could mean he is quietly quitting the race in essence, right? If you're not out campaigning and doing stuff, you're not really running. Now, we did hear from him today as he called into the Breakfast Club radio show this morning And according to the New York Post, well, he whined about his cash-strapped campaign and the biased media as he defended taking a hiatus from the campaign trail. Now, look, I get it. He's got a day job. He is currently the mayor, and campaigns cost money. He's having difficulty raising money. But he actually blamed us, the media, for his problems, saying they, meaning us, the media, orchestrated and organized to really undermine my campaign. When you hear that mayor is dropping out over and over again, your funders are gone. Now, what's interesting about all of this is that Adams is polling fourth. He's behind Curtis Cillizza, the Republican, and he's revealing that he's received quite a few offers to drop out of the race, and he's not happy about it. Curtis Cillizza, that is. Here's what he had to say.
Let me warn Cuomo and all of his millionaire supporters. I'm putting you on blast now. You call me, you try to bribe me. First of all, it's unethical, it's illegal. I will tape your conversations. I will report it to the proper authorities, and I hope you go to jail. Oh, come on. Cuomo's a flawed candidate. We all know that. But we all have to come together in order to defeat Mamdani. Oh, so I said this is ABC, anybody but Curtis, right? You can forget that.
Listen, we told you there were big personalities in this race, and we've still got more than a month to go. So buckle up and stick with Battleground NYC. We've got it all covered. Up next, we'll talk about bigger picture politics in this race and beyond. Battleground NYC. We'll be right back. We're back with Battleground NYC, the fight for your vote. Let's get to some analysis. Joining me now for the bigger picture is Chris Cillizza, an independent news creator on Substack and YouTube and a NewsNation political analyst. Chris, welcome back.
Hi, thrilled to be here.
Hi. I'm psyched you're here too because there's a lot I want to get to, and so I'm glad we have you for the rest of the show. I want to start by staying local a bit before we go to DC and then the national interest and implications in this race. You've covered a lot of political races, just as I have. Eric Adams, as we just heard, is blaming everyone else for his fourth place position. Meanwhile, he hasn't held a campaign event in 6 or 7 days. We both know this. If you're complaining, you're losing. If you're explaining, you're losing. But if he's not even going to campaign, really, why is he staying in? It feels like a kind of Biden ego-driven stubbornness that's ultimately just going to be bad for him. What are your thoughts?
Let me go extremely cynical and say, look, we know that there's at least been some conversation about the possibility of Mayor Adams getting some kind of role in the Trump administration, right? I mean, I always remind people he skipped out on events on January 20th of this year to go to Donald Trump's inauguration. Reminder, he was the Democratic mayor of one of the most Democratic cities in the country.
Right.
So I still, SE, wouldn't rule that entirely out. Like, I used to always wonder about a politician who was in legal trouble, which Adams is also in, but you know, why do they stay in office? And somebody explained to me once, a lawyer, they were like, well, because they still have some bargaining leverage then, right? Like once they leave office, it's less, it's like, okay, well, I'll leave, but only if fill in the blank. So I don't know. I mean, look, I do think ego and stubbornness is absolutely, I don't think you're wrong about that, but I would just throw that into the mix. Like we are 40 days out. I know that that's not very long, but there's no path to anyone other than Zohran Mamdani winning unless the field gets smaller, And I think anyone who knows anything about politics looks at that. So maybe Adams is kind of holding out hope, but look, it's going to be embarrassing if the sitting mayor of New York City finishes fourth behind, bless his heart, Curtis Cillizza. Do you know what I mean? Like and so, I think Adams has to, he has to weigh that too, not because I think he's going to run for another office anytime soon, but because his earning power after office, if you are a guy who got 6% in running for re-election as mayor, it's not exactly like a selling point to a company or a lobby shop or anything like that.
Right. Well, and to your point, the offers were coming in fast and furious for an exit ramp. And once he's if he finishes fourth and loses,
Yeah.
I don't know that those offers keep coming.
No, and people always say like, "Oh, why did so and so drop out? It's so close to the election." I'm like, because so and so knows that they're going to get 1% of the vote in Iowa, for example. Do you know what I mean? Like,
Right.
it's a lot better to be like, you know what? We fought the good fight, but it's not going to work out for us. Than you looking at the Iowa caucuses and being like, Chris Cillizza got 0 delegates. Do you know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like, it's, you don't want to,
Yes.
I always say, you don't want to wind up, this is a deep Connecticut cut, but I'm from Connecticut, so I'll make it. You don't want to wind up like Chris Dodd. You're a longtime senator. You run for president. Basically, he got as many votes as I did. And you know what I mean? Like, you don't want it to end that way. And so this is the exit ramp is always open, I think, for exactly that reason. Can you live to fight another day, whether that's in politics, in the private sector, whatever?
Right. Okay. We've also both covered Andrew Cuomo. We know who he is.
Ah, yes.
If he doesn't get this head-to-head matchup he thinks is coming, and if he loses this race, a race he didn't want to be running, what is his political future, Chris?
I don't think there is any. The Cuomo hive, which does exist online, weirdly, when he first started running for mayor, there were people who would say to me like, "Why are you not including him in the 2028 rankings?" And I was like, "Because he's not mayor, and even if he is, like there are people who hold this hope. I don't know if it's like a holdover for Mario, and never having run in 92 and all that. But there is, and look, it's obviously very like New York, Metro Atlantic centric. I don't think people in Oklahoma are like, man, I hope Andrew Cuomo runs for president. But,
you're right. Yeah.
But I've always thought that was overblown. Like, even if let's say he beat Zohran Mamdani by 50 points and he walks into the mayor's race, I don't see that Andrew Cuomo is like the future of the Democratic Party in any meaningful way. And certainly at this point, Essie, and look, he's running because having lost the Democratic primary, because he's got nowhere else to go.
Yes.
This is it, right? This is the last lever he can pull, which is, well, I can run, so I'm going to run. If he loses to me, I mean, that's it. He's not old. I mean, he's not old by Senate standards, I guess I should say. He's in his 60s, right? But I don't see another comeback. Of course, I would have told you after Donald Trump lost in 2020, he wasn't coming back, and look at where we are now. So it's like, you never know, but I'm skeptical.
Well, yeah, especially when, someone's job ends in disgrace, right? And his governorship did. You think, God, what kind of comeback? And he obviously, couldn't come back in the primary. It's not looking great for the general. I don't know where you go after that, but it'll be interesting. Okay, Chris, I've got lots more questions for you, so stay right there. Battleground NYC will be right back. We're back with Battleground NYC, the fight for your vote. And back with me for the bigger picture is Chris Cillizza, independent news creator on Substack and YouTube, and a NewsNation political analyst. Okay, Chris, let's broaden out a little bit to Washington, D.C. The Treasury Secretary, Scott Bessent, this week waded into this mayoral race, warning Mamdani that he won't get a federal bailout if his socialist policies bankrupt New York City. Trump has also waded in repeatedly, so have senators from Maryland to California. I can't tell if Washington is loving this race or really, really afraid of it. What's your take from inside the Beltway?
Yes, I will tell you, and this is an overgeneralization, but it's broadly true. Republicans are loving this race. Democrats are hating this race. I mean, look, I literally laughed out loud when I heard you reading the Kamala Harris endorsement. I mean, and I'd heard it before. I mean, and I, by the way, I should have said endorsement. You know what I mean? Like, could you be more lukewarm? There is someone running who is a Democrat that I, as a Democrat, support, and I will not say his name under any circumstance. I mean, it's like so awkward. If I was Zohran Mamdani, I'd be like, just don't say anything. Like, that's better.
Right.
So I think like Hakeem Jeffries, Chuck Schumer, I mean, these people, like, my view on it, if you're a Democrat, is like, just endorse him and say, look, I don't agree with everything Zohran Mamdani says, I don't agree with anything any Democratic politician says other than me, and sometimes not even that. But the energy and the excitement he's brought to the party and young people, we need that, and I want to learn from that. I just don't, it's not super complicated.
It's not hard.
And yet we're turning it into, it's been a story for weeks. And, you know, Hakeem Jeffries continues to be like, I'm getting close to endorsing, or I'm getting close to making a decision. That reminds me of the Donald Trump, I'm going to release my taxes in 2 weeks from 2016. Like, just either do it or don't do it, but like, don't make the process of it a story. So Scott Bessent wants it to be a story. So does every Republican senator and every Republican House member in a swing district, because Zohran Mamdani gives them, look, Nancy Pelosi is not in leadership anymore, right? And she's you know, on her way out of Congress at some point. Hillary Clinton's not in politics anymore. Teddy Kennedy is not alive anymore. Kamala Harris is kind of out of the picture, broadly speaking, although she's kind of back in a little bit with this endorsement. They need someone to scare the base and to raise money.
They need a boogeyman.
Yes. And Zohran Mamdani is perfect for that, which, look, Hakeem Jeffries knows that. Chuck Schumer knows that. My point is, do you think Donald Trump is going to look at that Kamala Harris endorsement, the first one, and be like, well, she didn't say his name, and she said that she's endorsing the Democrats, so let's give her a pat. Let's not attack her about Zohran Mamdani. Give me a break. Of course. You think that Donald Trump's not going to attack Hakeem Jeffries because he hasn't endorsed? I mean, it's ridiculous. So, like, take the good things of Mamdani, and then, you know, of course you're not going to agree. Say, I agree with a lot of his diagnoses. I don't agree with all of his solutions, but the Democratic Party needs to be a Big Ten. It's just, in my opinion, malpractice politically. Just do it.
Yes. It feels like they're being too cautious with him and also taking themselves way too seriously. Like,
way too seriously.
It's not going to make or break this race. This is the only bright spot in your party right now.
Correct.
That's
so important.
Might as well wrap your arms around it. I mean, it does make a lot of sense. Okay.
Look, I get the theory. Do you want a Democratic socialist as mayor? Probably not. If you're a Democrat on the ballot,
or the face of the party, probably not.
26, probably not. But this is where we are, and he won fair and square. So again, like, embrace what you can embrace. Distance what you can distance, and that's it.
Yep. Okay, we mentioned Trump has inserted himself into this race, but Mamdani is also focused on Trump. Yesterday, he railed against Trump's big, beautiful bill, saying it will result in cuts to New Yorkers' health care. Usually, people like us, Chris, we would tell local candidates to stay local. But is this smart of Mamdani to do? So, you know, the famous thing that you and I, of course, were told 1,000 times coming up in journalism was the Tip O'Neill, all politics are local, right? It doesn't really matter what your party does nationally. It matters, do you get the potholes fixed? Like Alphonse D'Amato basically got elected to the Senate on a promise of being the mayor of New York. I think that that's different now. I really do. It's not just Trump, but I just think like national issues now are local issues. Like everything is national now. And so in some ways it's kind of like, yeah, I mean, I think you do have to do a good job on like making sure people's garbage gets picked up in New York. Like you can't, or like if there's a snowstorm, you got to plow the streets. But I also do think that people will look, particularly in New York City, you know, such a big city, such a prominent role. I think people will look to the mayor and be like, well, what do you think of the One Big Beautiful Bill, or what Trump's doing on immigration, or what Trump's doing in Memphis and DC? And again, by the way, I see that's probably why there is this concern in the Democratic Party, because it's like, well, we don't really want Zohran Mamdani to be the first call for every cable news network, every newsletter writer, every person on YouTube who wants a Democratic opinion, because the guy's not even a Democrat. Yep. No, I think that's I think that's right. It has become national, and when Trump inserts himself into your local politics, it'd be really weird to not respond.
Totally.
So I think I'm with you. Okay, stay right there, Chris. I've got one more round of questions for you when we come back. Battleground NYC. We'll be right back. Okay, we're back with more Battleground NYC with Chris Cillizza. And I have got to talk to you, Chris, about Kamala.
Sure.
Midterms in 2028. Kamala Harris has a new book out in which she's pretty pointed about what went wrong in the 107 days of her presidential campaign. Did what you read make it sound like she's going to run again, or is this ceremonial burning of bridges a sign that she's tapping out? What do you think?
Okay, so I have two thoughts. One,
Okay.
and I honestly, I don't know which one is right. I could
Yeah.
be led to believe either one. One
Mhm.
is she is far more candid than I thought she would be in the book
Mhm.
about Biden, about Pete Buttigieg, about Gavin Newsom, about Josh Shapiro, about her campaign.
Yep.
And that of course makes you think like your default setting there is, oh, she's not running for anything else. And so she's kind of airing the dirty laundry. Like I got a lot of,
Yep.
it's like Festivus. I got a lot of
Yeah.
problems with all of you. You know what I mean? And she's
Right.
like doing it.
Yep.
But then I think, what if this is like Kamala 2.0, where it's like,
Yes.
I'm going to tell everyone what I really think.
Mhm.
And this is me turning over a new leaf. And I was the consultant class and the Joe Biden world. They all had me kind of, they didn't let me be me. And this is the first step of kind of a reintroduction of like, I'm going to tell it how it is, which by the
Yeah.
way is very valuable in this political climate. I mean, the worst thing that you can be in this political climate is a lifetime politician. Like
Yeah,
it's
right.
for any office, by the way. I mean, I think Andrew Cuomo's biggest problem was not that he had resigned, but that he had been in office for a million years and everybody knew his family. That was once his greatest strength, now his greatest weakness. That's
Right.
Mamdani's appeal, at least in part. So I
Mhm.
don't know which of those SE is right. Because my default was, oh, she's not running for anything again. But then I was like, well, if you wanted to reinvent yourself as kind of an authentic, outside the box politician, this isn't the worst way to do it.
No, and in fact, so I think the answer is B. Because I think, in fact, if you are thinking of running, this is the first necessary step of
Yes.
probably like 100 steps you'd have
Yes.
to take. You would have to do
yes.
this.
Yes,
You would have
100%
to,
right.
the cleavage would have to be pretty clear for you to then go on and make the case that you can run again and it will be different and it will be your own race. And if you're just carrying Biden's water still and defending everything that happened, you don't get there. So my thought immediately when I read this was she's running and this is what she had to do. It's not the
Yep.
only thing she's gonna have to do, but it was the first thing she had to do to set those wheels in motion.
I think I probably land there too. And you know what's interesting is I think at least one of her potential rivals in 2028 lands there too. I don't know if you saw this, but Josh Shapiro, the governor of Pennsylvania, gave an interview where he basically, I'll give you the cliff notes if you haven't read the book. She basically says like, I didn't pick Josh Shapiro as VP because he was too interested in the job and he wanted it for himself and too ambitious. Okay. So Shapiro gets asked about that. And he could have been like, look, I respect the vice president, blah, 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 right? He could have been, what he says is she's going to have to, I'm paraphrasing, she's going to have to answer for the fact that she insists she never saw Joe Biden's degradation, like Joe Biden's erosion mentally and physically while in office. And I was like, okay, so that's how we're doing it. So if he had been given the high sign to say she's not going to run, look, she needs to sell books. If she says she's not running before the book comes out, nobody buys it.
Right.
Sell books, but she's not going to run. I'm not sure he goes the kind of nuclear route of you're going to have to answer for carrying Biden's water. And the implication of his quote, obviously, is like covering up what you knew about Biden's case.
Yeah.
So that made me think like, oh, well, Josh Shapiro thinks at least she's considering running, which I thought was fascinating.
Yes. Oh, very fascinating. I'm sure you saw polling this week that showed most voters trust Republicans more on the economy, crime, and immigration, AKA the three issues that were the most important in 2024. Bad news for Democrats. What do they do between now and midterms to turn that around?
I think I always think of midterm elections like that old story of like you're going hiking in the woods, you and a buddy, and you come across a bear and you freeze and your buddy bends down and ties his shoes and you're like, what are you going to do? You're not going to be able to outrun the bear. And he says, well, I don't have to outrun the bear. I just have to outrun you. Right. Like
exactly.
So I feel like the electorate is the bear and Democrats are never going to, at least in the near term, revivify their brand in a really effective way. All they have to do is be slightly faster than Donald Trump. So it's like, that's the work. You must make the 2026 election a referendum on Donald Trump's economic policies, Donald Trump's sort of, tariffs. Don't make it about crime. Don't make it about immigration. You will lose. They should talk almost exclusively about And Mallory McMorrow in Michigan, who's running for the Senate, uses this language: the affordability crisis, groceries, home, car payment. That's how you win. Don't make it about
100%.
Trump. Don't make it about immigration. Don't make it about crime. Make it about lived reality, which, by the way, is the lesson of Zohran Mamdani.
You got it. And what a great way to button up this great conversation, Chris Cillizza. Thanks so much for being here. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.
And we'll see you back here tomorrow, every Monday through Friday, for more conversation and context. Battleground NYC. Thanks.